Hello, my name is Aiden, and this is my presentation on Sir Francis Drake. Alright, so what exactly did Drake contribute to our understanding of piracy? Well, Drake was considered a hero for his action against Spain, and this image of being a hero, but he was a pirate, so he defied authority. It led to many of the main protagonist pirates we see in modern film and pop culture. Furthermore, Sir Francis Drake's success allowed for the well known concept of privateering across the seas in order to provide for your own country. Drake was heavily responsible for the success of England because he heavily contributed to their security by actually getting permission from Elizabeth to raid Spain's harbor in 1577 to 1580. So, as I said, Sir Francis Drake has had his reputation, which evolved into pop culture. So, one of the things I thought would be interesting to discuss is how Sir Francis Drake influenced the popular video game series Uncharted, in which the video game's main character is actually named after Drake, Nathan Drake, who is a treasure hunter determined to uncover Sir Francis Drake's lost treasure. Nathan also believes he's a descendant of Drake, which he eventually takes a museum, which leads him to Drake's fortune at the end of the game. And as you can see, there's a picture of Sir Francis Drake's body in the game. Along with video games, he also inspired many popular movie pirates such as Errol Flynn from the Seahawk, and of course, from Pirates of the Caribbean, Will Turner. He sort of romanticized the fact that pirates were like, they could be these perfect heroes, as to say, and that's what we see here. These two pirates are kind of the heroes in these movies. But who exactly was Sir Francis Drake? So, Sir Francis Drake was an English admiral who was chosen by Queen Elizabeth as the leader of an expedition with intentions to pass around South America. He was given approval from Elizabeth to cause as much damage to he could as the Spaniards. But even though he's given approval, he chose to be a pirate instead on his expeditions. But that ended up benefiting him and England. So on September 26th of 1580, Drake's famous ship, the Golden Hind, was taken into the Plymouth harbor. It was there where Drake was able to gain his fortune with spices and other treasures he found on the harbor. Although Spain was protesting that Queen Elizabeth allowed him to commit piracy, Queen Elizabeth never admitted to the fact that he was a pirate, and instead personally knighted Sir Francis Drake. So, this is just a map of the voyage around the world that Drake traveled upon. If you look at the purple arrow, all of that is where Drake went. So you could see he went pretty much around most of the world. He started off by the Pacific Ocean and he had his voyages to the East Indies. And then he went below towards South Africa and then went north towards England. Once again, he went down to South America. And then he continued up towards Mexico. And he was able to cover most of the world in such a short period of time span of 3 years. This is just a picture of Sir Francis Drake being knighted by Queen Elizabeth on his very own ship. And this is his ship. It's very stunning, very powerful, as to say. And I'm sure if anyone saw it out in the open, they would know, oh, that's Sir Francis Drake. So Drake was born on Crowndale, estate of the Lord Francis Russell, who was a father to Edmund Drake, which is one of the later tenant farmers. Francis was later brought up among relatives in Plymouth, specifically to the Hawkins family, where he would later meet John Hawkins, who had such vocations involving piracy and merchants. And at a very young age, Drake was able to join the Hawkins family fleet and soon had command of his own ship in 1568, which was primarily focused on slave trading in the Spanish colonies. And this is just a picture of the Hawkins family fleet. You can see here that it's very powerful fleet. They had many ships, so they were very powerful. So after that, Drake shortly started voyaging towards the West Indies. So him and John Hawkins set sail to San Juan de Ula, in which they determined to right the wrongs which he suffered from Spanish authorities. Although it was a disaster for the Drake and Hawkins because their fleet was attacked by the Spanish forces, many of them were actually ended up killed. Drake was able to escape and return back to England. With this attack, he further grew more hatred for Spain and had more motivation to take them down. So Drake later returned to conquer the town of Nombre de Dios, which was once again a great failure, but he was able to gain great deal of wealth from attacking a silver Baron mule train. And this event is actually known as the foundation of Drake's fortune and success that we see in history. I have here just a video that kind of depicts how Drake was able to capture the mule train. So we're just going to watch that real quick.
There are weaknesses in this chain. You've got to get your silver from the mines to the ports. And it's 12 days through the jungle. The mule's packed up with this precious metal. And you better hope that nobody attacks before your big battleships can come and defend you.
Drake and his crew trek through the jungle to a point just south of Nombre de Dios, where they lay in wait for the train.
Drake and the others set an ambush. So they divide the forces in two. Drake goes on the eastern side of Nombre de Dios a few kilometres away, and they wait for the mule train.
Drake and his allies spring the trap. Spanish guards put up a fierce resistance, but Drake overwhelms them. The surviving Spaniards flee into the jungle.
This time, it's a really great success.
So that was just a quick video, but one thing I wanted to say about it is that attacks like that, hiding kind of in the jungle, just waited for mule trains, that could also be seen in pop culture. Such as in the movie The Seahawk, they're actually waiting in the jungle at one part to ambush the other party.
There are weaknesses.
So, although Drake did live a life of success, his final years were not nearly as successful for the so-called legend. So, in 1569, Drake would lead an expedition to Portugal, but it turns out to be his last because him and his entire crew was decimated by a fever. The fever, known as dysentery, unfortunately took Drake's life. And very interestingly enough, other English captains found Drake not to be the so-called legend, but thought he was more unreliable and self-absorbed. It was actually the Spaniards we get the legend of Drake, who was also known by them as the master thief of the unknown world. So with Drake being the master thief, he left behind his legacy in which his name Drake would be known for centuries to come. And just a small fun fact is that the final Uncharted game is actually called A Thief's End. So, to sum it all up, Sir Francis Drake was able to inspire many of the romanticized pirate figures we see in movies such as Pirates of the Caribbean, video games such as Uncharted, the Seahawks. Basically, any pirate who's the main protagonist of a movie, you could thank Sir Francis Drake for inspiring such ideas. So, that's pretty much my whole presentation. It was very nice learning about pirates with you this semester, and have a good one.